All right. Well, thank you. And we're already working on one of the goals of tonight's meeting is to meet each other, build our coalition. And as Lily had mentioned, we have this monthly meeting for our task force, but we're so excited that we have, 10, 15 extra folks who are interested in legislative advocacy and getting policies passed that matter and will improve health outcomes. So good to have you all. My name is Charles Mayer. With Lily, I'm a co-chair of our Economic Inequity and Health Task Force, which we're focused on racial and economic inequity as the most important way of improving health outcomes. So tonight, let's get to tonight. We're going to learn about some root causes of health inequity. That's not the main focus, but you'll see that's what we talk about. We're going to build this coalition. We're going to learn about state legislative bills, and that's where the action comes in. In particular, we've got 9 particular different bills that our task force is focused on. And of course, there are hundreds and hundreds of others, but we'll talk about those tonight. We're going to plan with you all about how to take action during this legislative session. And the legislative session goes from now until April 23rd, 105 days. And then we're actually going to take action tonight, because one of the things we always hear, and we totally agree, we're not taking action. So we're actually going to do something tonight. Okay. Okay.
All right. So we've already touched on this a little bit in welcoming you, but we wanted to let you know who we are for those of you who are new to us. So we're Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility, and we're a health professional-led advocacy organization working to create a healthy, just, peaceful, and sustainable world, which is a big goal. And what we do is we leverage the voice of health professionals and other people passionate about our work to educate people, influence decision makers, and promote policies that support our mission to engage folks to create a healthy, peaceful, just, and sustainable world. And we do that by focusing on 3 threats to human health, which are nuclear weapons, climate change, and economic and racial inequity. And all of these core areas have a volunteer task force of WPSR members, mostly health professionals, but some not. And Charles and I co-chair the Economic Inequity and Health Task Force. And so he's going to tell you a bit more about what we do.
Great. So just to ground you in our work, we're looking at the root causes of poor health in the United States, inequity in health outcomes. And we're focused on racial and economic inequity as the root cause. Our focus areas are, number 1, turning the upside down tax system right side up. So most of you know this because you've been to our meetings, but the wealthiest of our state pay about 3% of their income towards state taxes, while the lowest income folks pay 18%. So it's really upside down, and we rank number 1 in the most upside down tax system in the country as a state. We also are focused on getting resources into the hands who need it most. And you'll see that's why we're focused on guaranteed basic income and other policies that get money into the people who need it. Having enough affordable homes and increasing wages for all working families. Next slide. All right, now we're going to show you this video. I think Lily's going to click on it. And this is the basics 101 on how the legislative session works. It's the wrong
one. Yeah,
so
moment.
Sit back and relax. This is just for those who don't understand or haven't had a lot of exposure to our state legislature.
All right, and I'm going to reshare in just a moment because that will make my computer happy. And we got to appease our electronics. All right. And let me make sure the sound is sharing. This was so smooth when I practice it because that is how Zoom is. All right. Okay. All right. Can everyone see a map of Washington? Great.
Yes.
Hopefully you'll be able to hear me. And you'll notice we started partway into this video, but it's because the first 30 seconds we're telling you about what our organization is, which we just did.
Washington State is divided into 49 legislative districts. Each district has 2 representatives and 1 senator. The House has 98 members, and the Senate has 49 members. House representatives serve 2-year terms, while senators serve 4-year terms. The legislature operates on a 2-year biennium, meaning one full cycle of the legislative process takes 2 years. Year 1 takes place on odd years, such as 2021 or 2023. We refer to Year 1 sessions as long sessions because they last 105 days. During a long session, the legislature takes time at the end to finalize the state budget for the next 2 years. Year 2 takes place on even years, such as 2022 or 2024. Year 2 sessions are referred to as short sessions because they will only last 60 days. The legislative session begins the second Monday of January. In 2023, the first day of session is January 9th. So what happens during the legislative session? It starts with a bill, and a bill starts with an idea. These ideas can come from state agencies, the governor's office, and activists and coalitions. It is important to remember that bills filed in the same biennium stay alive until the biennium ends. This means that some bills can be carried over from the long session to the short session without having to be reintroduced. In order to introduce a bill, the legislation must be filed by a legislator, even if the idea comes from another group. This legislator is referred to as the prime sponsor of the bill, and they have 24 hours to collect signatures of support from other legislators. These supporting legislators are referred to as co-sponsors. A bill is then heard on the chamber floor for what is called the first reading. After a bill is heard for its first reading, it is referred to a committee based on its topic. Understanding the committee process is essential to being an effective activist in the legislative session. Generally, the first committee a bill goes to is referred to as a policy committee, where legislators debate the merits of the policy based on its contents. Examples of policy committees include the House Environment and Energy Committee and the Senate Housing and Local Government Committee. From here, if bills have what is called a fiscal note attached to them, they move into a fiscal committee. This committee is responsible for discussing the fiscal merits of a bill. Examples of fiscal committees include the Ways and Means Committee, the Transportation Committee, and the Finance Committee. After consideration in the Fiscal Committee, a bill moves to the Rules Committee, where final decisions are made on whether or not to move the bill to the full chamber for debate and a vote. Sometimes a bill can skip the Policy Committee and start the process in a Fiscal Committee. Common examples of this include tax policy. A bill can also start in a Policy Committee and skip the Fiscal Committee, assuming it does not have a fiscal note attached to it, indicating it would not have a large financial ramification. Regardless of if a bill skips either a policy committee or a fiscal committee, every bill must go to rules in order to progress in
Well, this is fun. Let me try to troubleshoot.
These are one of the main points to go to rules in order to progress in the legislative process. Because committees are one of the main points of engagement for the public, it is important to understand how they work and where you can get involved. Committees have 3 actions they can take each time they meet. They can have what is called a work session, where they work out the policy details of a bill between themselves. They can hold a public hearing, where they hear what the public thinks of a piece of legislation. They can also hold an executive session, where they vote on whether the bill should move out of the committee or not. It is important in the advocacy process that we are aware of the dates for public hearings on bills of interest. This is one of our main pathways to engage in legislation before it becomes law. Let's talk about the importance of rules. The Rules Committee is a special place that has different rules and processes than either policy committees or fiscal committees. The Rules Committee is one of the most influential bodies in each chamber, as a bill must go to rules to advance in the process, and the members of the Rules Committee are the ones who decide which bills live and die. For these reasons, bills often get stuck in the Rules Committee, so it is important that a bill has momentum when it reaches the Rules Committee in order to advance in the process. Unlike other committees, there is no opportunity for public testimony in the Rules Committee. If a member of the Rules Committee pulls a bill, it moves to the chamber floor where it is discussed by the whole chamber. On the chamber floor, a bill is considered by all members of the chamber in what is called the bill's second reading. During this floor time, members debate bills and propose amendments to the bills under consideration. When all is said and done, a vote is taken on a bill, and, with a majority, the bill is passed out of the chamber. The bill is then handed from one chamber to the next, with all changes to the bill included. Once the opposite chamber receives a bill, the process repeats. The bill has its first reading and is assigned to the appropriate committee, where it begins its process. Remember, in the first reading, there is an opportunity for impact through public testimony and meetings with your legislators. The bill then has its second reading, where it is debated on the chamber floor. Finally, the bill gets its third reading, where it is voted on by the full chamber. But what happens when a bill is amended in the opposite chamber? One of three things can happen. If the original chamber agrees to the changes, the bill goes through concurrence and goes directly to the governor's desk. If the chambers cannot come to an agreement, even after discussion, they enter the process of recession and the bill dies. If the chambers disagree on the changes made, they can call a conference committee where legislators from both chambers meet to try to come to an agreement that suits both their needs. If they concur through this process, the bill goes to the governor's desk. When the bill arrives on the governor's desk, the governor has three options for actions to take. They can choose to sign the bill into law as it is delivered to their desk. They can also veto the bill in its entirety and the bill does not pass into law. In the state of Washington, the governor also has the power of line item vetoes, where they can strike any part of the bill that they do not like and sign the rest of the bill into law. The governor can also fail to take either of the above actions on a bill, in which case the bill is automatically passed into law after the completion of a waiting period. In addition to understanding the legislative process, it is also important to get to know your legislators. Consider learning, what committees are they assigned to? Do they hold any leadership positions? What bills have they sponsored in the past? What is their voting record, or what is their position on an issue? What is their day job? Do they have any relationships with WPSR? To learn more about Washington's legislators, go to ledge.wa.gov/senate/senators for information on our state senators and ledge.wa.gov/house/representatives for information on our representatives.
All right, we're gonna pause there because the rest is, again, going to be redundant information. So thank you for watching that, and I'm sure that's review for a bunch of you, but also good to refresh before we dive in. And with that, I will pass it back to Charles to talk about how we specifically do our advocacy. And let me just get that set up here. So fun. And also, I wanted to point out, Roxanne, your question in the chat is a really important one, and we will talk about that as we go into why we support the policies we support. And so 5,000 steps. All right, Charles, take it away.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, I think maybe I'll just answer the question why we don't specifically work on healthcare policy. There are a lot of other organizations that work on healthcare policy. We are actually and we support, universal health care, et cetera. But we're really the group that works on social justice as health professionals outside of medical care. We're not, so that's not our focus, but we recognize the importance of it. So it's one of those things. And there's so much to do. And we like our partners, and so we work with everybody. So anyway, back to what we do during the session. As mentioned, the session is 105 days long, and we follow the bills that impact health justice, but obviously we can't do all of them. So our process is to focus on the areas we mentioned earlier, and then pick even specifically the bills that we can work on. We're a small organization, and we're building. So we'll see how things turn out. But we ask, and this coalition that we're working together with is basically a place for health professionals to raise their advocacy voices and testify on those topics, write op-ed pieces, write letters to the editor, send notes to their legislators. And I wrote down constantly, because you'll see we want to do that all the time, make relationships with our legislators. And then we like to send notes to organizations, colleagues, and friends about these issues. We also ask that folks in our task force attend coalition meetings if they can. And our coalition meetings are focused on housing, and they're also focused on balancing our tax code. And then there are Olympia days ahead for advocacy, which we'll mention later. And tonight we're asking that each of you join one of our 3 groups. You can work on any of the topics, but these are the 3 groups we're focused on. Progressive taxation. Secondly, we have, and there are 4 bills that are focused on progressive taxation coming up in this legislative session. Another group is the guaranteed basic income, which I'll talk about specifically, and there's actually only 1 bill up. And then there's 4 bills on affordable housing and homelessness prevention. And we'll explain a little bit more why we're doing these, why we're focused on these 3 areas.
Great. So we're gonna start talking about our policy priorities based on those 3 areas. And I also wanted to add some more to the answer to Roxanne's question, because it's a question both Charles and I really like talking about. But basically, as Charles mentioned, healthcare is incredibly important. Most of WPSR is healthcare professionals, so very aware, and we do sign on and support where we can with any universal healthcare related bills or letters or any of that. But what we really want to get to here is talking about how things like taxes affect health. Nobody wants to talk about taxes. Taxes are boring and bureaucratic, and they're a thing that you have to pay, but really they're a powerful tool for supporting people's health. And the same with housing. We're in a housing crisis in Washington. And so we need to get people housed, because if people are housed, then their health improves. So we're looking at these types of root causes to try to address health in a different way. And like Charles said, not many people are working on it from this approach. Anyway, so that leads to our policy. And I just want to contextualize where we get our policy. So we've sort of talked about the issues we know we want to focus on, but we don't pull our policies out of thin air. We work with a bunch of partners, including Balance Our Tax Code, the Working Family Tax Credit Coalition, Washington Budget and Policy Center, Economic Opportunity Institute, and the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, and more, and sort of learn what they're going to focus on for the year. And then based on our priorities and what they recommend by doing community outreach and talking to people, we select our focus areas. So it's definitely a collaborative effort, and it's not us pulling them out of thin air. And then these policy priorities, while we'll be consistent with our work and we'll keep the main focus areas, the actual bills themselves may shift somewhat. A bill could stall somewhere and not move out of committee, and then we might also focus on something else. Maybe someone files a new bill that we weren't necessarily anticipating, and suddenly that's going to have a big impact. And so all of this can shift as we go. So I'm going to start us off by talking about the progressive taxation area. And like I said, not everyone loves talking about taxes, but I love talking about taxes. That's why I'm here and have this staff position, because I think taxes are fascinating. And Washington is particularly fascinating because we have an upside down tax code, meaning the folks who make the least amount of money pay the highest percentage of their income in taxes. And the folks who make the most amount of money pay the lowest percentage of their taxes. And that's backwards. And we know that's a health issue because money contributes to health. We know. Anyway, so our policy focus areas are this session are a wealth tax, an estate tax, and the working family tax credit, which, as several of you probably know, passed last year, but there's some changes to it this year to make it better and make it reach more people. And so we'll start off by talking about the wealth tax, which has not been filed yet, or at least wasn't this morning. But the prime sponsors are Senator Frame and Rep. Ty. And it's a 1% tax on wealth over 250 million. And this is a property tax, which we already have a property tax, but a property tax on intangible assets. And it could raise a lot of money. Right now, with this amount, with this 250 million threshold, it's 3 billion a year, but that could shift if it goes up and down. And that money could go towards really incredible causes. The last I heard, it was potentially going to a fund for folks with disabilities. But we won't know until it's out of the legislature where that money's actually going to go. And there's also a world where wealth tax is balanced by something else and it keeps everything revenue neutral, which means we wouldn't have more money in the budget, but we would love to have more money in the budget. And then there's the estate tax, which we're keeping an eye on right now. The bill is still being finalized. It would raise state taxes, what a tongue twister, on estates that are valued over 3 million. And it close a loophole on transfers to large family foundations, which all is very technical, but it's, again, a tax that would go towards balancing our tax code. And then we have the working families tax credit, which is really exciting that it passed. And so starting this year, families are going to get cash payments between $300 and $1,200. And this is for low to moderate income Washington residents, and match it. It is similar to the earned income tax credit, if folks know about that on a federal level. And yeah, it's really exciting that people are going to get the money this year. And we know even $1,000 from the earned income tax credit has health benefits. So adding this on top of it is incredible for health. And so this year, the two bills that are being filed are a technical fix, which is basically because this is a new tax. As they were figuring out implementation, they figured out, oh, there were some things that we could have done better. And so that's why these fixes are here. A couple of important ones are that ITIN filers don't face delays, which ITIN filers tend to be folks who are undocumented. It means it's a number, an individual taxpayer identification number that you can use instead of a social security number to file taxes. And the other one is including married filing separately, which isn't a huge amount of people, but a lot of people who've experienced domestic violence use this filing method. So it's very important to make sure it is included in the process. And then the expansion is much more simple. The working family tax credit revolves how much money you receive depends on how many dependents or children you have. And right now, if you don't have any dependents that you claim, you have to be 25 to 65 years old. And that's how it is on the federal level as well. And we're hoping to change that so anybody 18 plus can get that money. And with that, I will pass it to Charles.
Great, thanks, Lily. And so that's the first of the three. So think about if that's the area you want to focus on, because you can go into that breakout group. I'm going to talk about guaranteed basic income. And Lily and I have Rochambeau'd for being leading the progressive taxation part, because I too am a huge fan of that. And just more data on that, if you look at And we have a whole presentation on the benefits of progressive taxation in health and all the services that come. But we know if you look at the countries throughout the world, those who have a much more healthy progressive taxation system are healthier, and they have more basic services. And you can't do that without proudly, and I say proudly, paying your taxes, because we benefit, everyone. So guaranteed basic income. Most of you know all about this. We had an event last summer. If you were able to attend that, you heard lots of detail about it. But just some basics, lots of studies have been done, lots of pilots have been done, and there's tons of information in this location called the Stanford Basic Income Lab. So if ever you want to dig into guaranteed basic income, go to that website, and there's all the evidence and all the information there. But there's strong evidence for better birth outcomes, educational attainment, psychological health, housing. We can really work on our housing troubles with guaranteed basic income. And we see decreased health utilization. If you're out of poverty, you can imagine you might not need to have as many health problems. One thing that's a myth that we need to clarify for everybody, it does not lead to a decreased work ethic if you're given guaranteed basic income. There's good science behind that. And just a reminder, when you put money into people's pocket in a real way, like we did during COVID with the federal tax credit, there's a huge reduction in poverty. And that has huge health outcome implications. Next slide. So that's some background. So this is our bill, and it's up beginning tomorrow. So tomorrow there's a hearing at 1:30 in the House and Human Services Youth and Early Learning Committee. So you learned that was a policy committee, and if it passes out of the policy committee, it will go to the Finance Committee, and if it goes to the Finance Committee, it will go to the Rules Committee. So that's what we're hoping. Basically, what this looks like, HB 1045, is a GBI pilot. It's not full GBI for everybody in the state, but it's a pilot with 7,500 people who are low income. You have to have less than 200% of the federal poverty line level to receive this. It's an unrestricted, unconditional, regular cash payment by the month for 24 months, 2 years. And the amount you'll get if this pilot passes, which we are really hoping it will, with all your help, is you'll receive the fair market for rent of your area, which could range between about $900 and about $2,200. So to the right, you can see the other eligibility criteria. You have to be 18 years old or an emancipated minor, and then you have to experience at least one of those 10 conditions. Okay, next slide.
As I move to the next slide, I also wanted to point out that I dropped in the chat a link where you can sign in pro to support GBI. It takes about 30 seconds. All right, this is the next slide.
And if you're wondering if the medical community supports GBI, we passed this resolution in September 2022 from the WISMA, the American Medical Association, which has over 12,000 members cross-specialty in the medical field. And let me read it to you. Be it resolved that the Washington State Medical Association supports legislation that improves health by implementing a statewide guaranteed basic income program and starting off as a state-level pilot program. It's their policy. So we've got a large group of folks that are very much in support of this. And Robin, who will be testifying tomorrow at 1:30 on behalf of WPSR, Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility, actually helped design this this resolution, and we went forward and helped get this passed. So very excited about that, and we'd be glad to share that resolution, because maybe some folks out there would like to use the resolution as a springboard for your organization and pass your own resolution, because we need more organizations involved. And I'm going to pass it over to good old Lexi, who's going to talk about housing and the policies that we're promoting and the bills that are coming up.
Great. Thanks, Charles. Hi, my name is Lexi. My pronouns are she, her. And the third topic that we're going to talk about is housing. And before we jump into this last section of policy priorities, I really want to reiterate the contextualization of why we chose these specific policies. As Lily and Charles previously explained, here at WPSR, we're really focused on targeting the root causes of ill health. And this includes housing injustice, as housing has been proven to be a direct means to health. And within our current housing injustice issues, some of the root causes of this homelessness are, but again, not limited to, the fact that there's just not enough homes for people to live in. Additionally, homes are too expensive for people, and this relates to one of the third factors, that wages are simply too low for the standard worker to afford their rent in their area. And so to combat these issues, we have about 4 policy priorities that we're really looking for in this legislative session, and we will hop into those next. Next slide, please. So the first one is House Bill 1124, which if you saw in the chat, there's a link to sign in pro for that as well. So the prime sponsor for this bill is Representative Peterson, and it was first introduced in 2022. And basically it requires landlords to provide a 6-month notice of significant rent increases, meaning over 5%. It also provides tenants with the right to end their lease due to that rent increase without penalty. And it also posits that we need to cap late fees. And this applies to both residential tenants and manufactured housing tenants. The second bill that we want to focus on is the bill about enforcing the State Landlord Tenant Act, which we're still waiting on that specific bill number. But it was also introduced first in 2022, and essentially it creates an enforcement mechanism for those landlord obligations. Next slide, please. And for the last 2, they kind of work together, but essentially they are focused on preventing rent gouging by capping those rent increases, capping and regulating associated fees, and closing the just cause loophole that allows landlords to use those rent increases to deny tenants of their rights under the State Residential Landlord Tenant Act. And so the first one is sponsored by Rep. Macri, and the second one is sponsored by Rep. Rummel. And you can really see in the descriptions that they're very complementary. And so we're just kind of putting those both in and supporting them both just to see which one lands the best in the system. And they were designed together with that in mind. Next slide, please. And then in addition to those 4 housing policy priorities, we're also planning to invest energy into budget advocacy when possible. And when we talk about the budget, this is basically meaning increasing resources for more housing. As we discussed, a big issue in housing injustice is the fact that we just don't have enough homes. And through this budget advocacy, we're directly advocating for affordability legislation. And with our direct advocacy for that previously discussed progressive taxation and that GBI, it directly gets resources into the hands of those most in need. So, yeah. Next slide, please.
Just to add to what Lexi just mentioned about the budget, it's pretty amazing that the budget that was submitted by the governor and is now before a Senate committee as well as the House committee, it has $4 billion for housing, which could cover over the next 6 years up to 19,000 homes. So it's a big deal. So that's why we want you guys to support the budget as it is, and support the legislators that support the budget. Anyway, just one other comment.
Thanks, Charles, and thank you, Lexi. Lexi's an amazing task force member who volunteered to help facilitate with us. Anyway, I also want to shout out all of you for all this advocacy that's happening in the chat right now. People are signing into committees. I'm getting some requests from information directly, and it's just very cool seeing all this happening. So thank you all for doing that. And now we're going to move into our next exercise, which is we're going to have everybody pick their topic of interest, like Charles was talking about. Then we're going to take some time on our own to write 2 sentences that you would like to say to your legislator about your topic of choice. And don't worry, this is just draft 1. This doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to keep talking about these. And before I talk about the next step in breakout rooms, because that feels like too much information all at once, I'm going to give us those 3 minutes, and I'm going to set a little timer here so that we actually take 3 minutes. And with that, I'll let you think about what you might like to say. All right, I'm going to bring us back. Thank you for doing that, and hang on to those sentences. We'll be using them shortly. So what we're going to do now is move into breakout rooms, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time in these breakout rooms. We're going to take 10 minutes to go around, and hopefully this will be divided well enough and not all in one breakout room by topic, that everybody can go around and say your 2 sentences out loud if you're comfortable. But we would love for everyone to share, because it'd be great to hear from everyone. And then at this time also, if you have questions about, once everyone's gone around, if you have questions about your topic area, this is a great time to ask them. And yeah, so we're hoping that can be a fruitful discussion. And then our second part is signing up for action. So we have options of different actions you can take throughout session. And we're hoping to get folks' names signed up for each of them. So the types of actions are, it could be providing testimony on a bill or public speaking, writing, so writing op-eds or letters to the editor, or attending coalition meetings and following bills. And I want to show you all, we have something prepared for each breakout room, which is each room has one. So that you saw that last one was progressive taxation. This one's guaranteed basic income. Each breakout room has one of these note slides. So we'll have you pick your own breakout room, then whatever room you pick, add your name to the top, and then add some notes during your discussion. And then here, which is particularly important, write your name next to the type of activity or the type of action you'd like to take during session. Gonna hop back to breakout rooms, and I'm going to stop sharing for a second and make sure I put these slides in the chat. While I do that, does anyone have any clarification questions, not about the bills, but about what the activity is going to entail?
Lily, is there a way for us to see the bills or some, I don't know, or like, how much information do we need? Because it went kind of fast, so I didn't feel like I captured everything.
Yes, well, you will have the slideshow because that is where the notes are, which is right here, which you all should have access to. Oops, that didn't work. That was everyone in meeting.
Slide. I added a slide actually that might be helpful. I don't know if you
saw. Oh, that would be amazing if you want to.
I snuck one in. That's a great question.
Right.
So
go ahead, Charles. What'd you sneak in?
That's it. On there, when you it'll have the bill number when we go to our legislator and asking our legislator. Maybe it's later. Sending the note to a legislator. It'll have it has the House bill numbers. I think I wrote them down as well.
Oh, I see. Slide 24.
And maybe that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, we have that. You can also scroll through. It has all the information we just talked about. Slides 21 through 23 have the notes. Will folks check that they can open the presentation and edit before I send you all into breakout rooms? Okay, cool. I'm getting some nods. I love that. Didn't want to send you off with a note-taking system you can't use. All right. It seems like there weren't any other clarifying questions. Cool. This is a fun experiment because I've never done a pick your own breakout room situation, but I have just opened them. Can you pick rooms? If you can, go ahead and pick them. Awesome. Welcome back. I hope you had good discussions in your rooms. Progressive taxation was a fun time. Anyway, thank you all for being here. And Charles, I'll have you lead us in our last activity, and probably as people are writing, I might make our final announcement so we can get people out of here on time. And Charles, I'll let you take it away. And as you do, I'll drop the Find Your District in the chat.
Excellent. All right, that went great. Thank you all. I had 6 folks in my group. And by the way, I think what we're going to do is we will send out an email by groups. So some of these questions that came up or how to do your advocacy work, we will send out to each group, and I'll be the leader or responsible for our group, etc. So more coming. So what we're going to do next is based on those 2 sentences and the discussion you just had, we'd like you to send a note to your legislator right now. So Lily's going to put up how to do that in the chat, where you'll click on it and you'll go through the little steps, and then you just type in 1, 2, 3 sentences. Let's see if it's in the chat. And also,
yeah, I dropped it. It's under Find Your District. So you put in your address. Some of you already know your district, but okay, from there you'll get your legislator.
Okay. So we'll take a minute now, and then we'll come back in about 2-3 minutes and just say goodnight. Let us know if you have any trouble finding your legislator. Lily, can you put up that slide that shows what it will look like when you get to the legislation, when you get to the page to send the message?
Oh, is that the 24? Okay.
Do we have something specific that we can share with them, like a bill number for the working family tax credit or the wealth tax bill number?
Yes, Charles has it. Let me just,
and we don't have the wealth tax, the estate tax don't have numbers. There are we have 4 bills for housing, and that we do have numbers for. And we also have the House Bill 1045, which is for GBI. And when the slide goes up, you'll see them again.
Yeah, one moment. Sorry, my computer
That's
is
right. You've done
giving
so
me
great
trouble
tonight, Lily. This is tough stuff.
It's always funny how when you when you move in front of people, it does not work how you planned it anymore. Okay.
All right, let's see here.
There it is. All right, so here's the bill numbers. Charles was amazing and put them together.
Let's see.
Can you all see that?
Uh-oh.
Can you see it, Charles?
I just clicked off. Now I can't. Hold on. I got to find. Just a sec.
It's up there.
Okay, thanks, Josie.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I kind of got lost. Where do we go?
Did you find your way back, Charles?
No.
Uh-oh.
I know. I clicked on something here.
Housing Vice Chair.
Sorry, it's not clear to me what I should do right now here.
Yeah. So in the link, in the chat, there's a link that under Find Your District.
I already sent an email to all my representatives today for a different reason here, because I'm clearly very concerned about the privacy issues here. They want to keep that already sent. So, and as I said, last year I sent them emails nearly every day. I know the drill, but I don't know I don't know what I should do here.
In terms of content?
Pardon?
In terms of what you should say, because you know how to send an email to your
but you want us to write an open email and then mention because it looks like this is a template with a subject, message, and would you like a response? That's somewhere on a website, I guess, but I don't know where.
Charles, do you want to help out with where you found that?
I'm so sorry. I got my screen is gone. I don't know where it went. But what I can say is, if you follow, I'm just going by memory here. If you follow that, how to get to your legislative district, and then you click on that, what we're asking is that you click through and find your click through it to send a message to your legislator about one of the 3 topics that you focused on tonight. Take those 2 sentences that you worked on and just write a note and send it off saying that you're supporting particular legislation.
Mm-hmm.
And then on there, they'll ask you what if there is a house number, a bill number, to put it in there, and hopefully you've got that bill number. I just and I can.
I just copied it from the screen here. That was the easy part.
Okay, so then you go down and you just say where you're from. They'll ask for your address, your email address, your phone number, I believe, and then you'll send, and then they'll ask a description. And on the description, you would just say it has to do with this particular topic. If it's GBI or if it's progressive taxation or housing. And then you would say the subject matter, and it would be in regards to the particular policy that you're concerned about. And then you write your note.
And I would also say if finding this form is not helpful and you already have your legislators' emails, feel free to email them as you have been emailing them. It is okay. You don't have to follow this format. This is not a special format. This is just like the format for people who don't know how to email their legislators or for people who prefer a form. So you seem like you have those emails, and however you prefer to send an email to your legislator is great. And with that, we only have 2 minutes left. So feel free to keep working on these, but I did want to share a couple announcements, which are, first of all, thank you all for being here. We're going to send out some action alerts throughout session, which are things like sign into a committee or forward this letter to your network and sign on to it, that sort of thing. And here is a link where you can sign up to get, and where you can sign up for WPSR's email list. And if you click Inequity, that's our task force and where you'll get our updates specifically on those sorts of actions. And then we have lobby days coming up. So if you're interested, shoot me an email. My email's here, lily@wpsr.org, because we haven't gotten the registration email yet. But that would be going down to Olympia and talking about either housing or progressive taxation and guaranteed basic income are together for that. So yeah, just shoot me an email. Let me know what you're interested in going down to Olympia for. And when the registration comes out, I'll make sure it gets to you. And the other thing is we're going to be at the MLK March on Monday, January 16th, if you'd like to join us. Again, this is all simple. You're just emailing me. And I will coordinate with you and make sure you have the information. And then the last thing is, we talked on this briefly in the progressive taxation group, but capital gains tax, which we supported last year and passed, is in litigation. If you want to go down to Olympia and support them on January 26th, they're having a rally, and that link is in the chat. And that's everything. So again, thank you all for being here, and thank you for those who have stuck around for the last bit. We really appreciate you joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry I lost you at the very end there, but I'm back now. Thanks for spending your time with us, and I'm glad we were able to take at least this action step. And if you weren't able to complete it, definitely do, but look for the alerts like Lily said. And it's going to be a full and hopefully rich, socially just legislative session. So I really appreciate y'all being here.